I'm not standing in front of a Lamborghini. I'm not that guy.
Right.
And that's why people are attracted to my platforms, because I'm like the anti-guru.
Yeah.
Like I don't do all that stuff. Half the time when I'm doing a lives, my hair's crazy. Like I'm unshaven. I'm walking my kid to school.
Yeah, I saw your clip. It looks like you have like 5 different gray t-shirts. It's like,
yeah,
there's
exactly.
a gray t-shirt. There's a gray t-shirt. These are all different gray t-shirts.
But people love that because they know it's real. They know it's real. Like this guy ain't going to pop up on some flashy stuff or on some jet. I don't care about that. And I don't want to work with people who care about that. Go to the flashy guy.
Yeah, that's not your
That's
thing.
not here. So I get the right people attracted to it by just being authentic.
Yo. Welcome to Find Your Freedom, the best entrepreneurship podcast. Being an entrepreneur is hard. That's why we created findyourfreedompod.com for all the resources you need to find your own freedom. And be sure to join our newsletter for tips and tools for aspiring entrepreneurs and to connect with our huge network of entrepreneurs. Welcome, Brian. We are so excited to have you on with us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, Brian. We're so excited and stoked to have you joining us today. When we were introduced to you and we checked out your 24/7 cash flow university, we said, man, we got to get this guy on because what you do with your university aligns so well with what we're trying to do here with the Find Your Freedom podcast and help educate folks and helping people find their freedom and cash flow, entrepreneurship, all these beautiful things that help people find all the flexibility and success in their lives. So let's talk about some of the things that you did on your way up to where you are today. So you dabbled in basketball. You were a finance guy. You got into insurance, real estate development.
Yeah.
You're doing all these different things. And then now it looks like you've transitioned mostly to focus on education. So what led you to take all those things that you had done in your past and kind of focus your energy and efforts towards the education space?
Yeah, I think, one, when you're successful at anything, people want to pick your brain. So I kind of went through that process where people were trying to pick my brain on, the real estate and how'd you get here and what's the journey like? And they want to take you out for a cup of coffee or lunch. And it's hard to give a decade's worth of game over a cup of coffee. It's just nearly impossible. So I kind of went into my bat cave, what I call it, like the home office. And I just put together a full scale training program on, how to get in this game, how to get started, how to execute, how to go from zero to your first 10, 15 deals. What are all the trials and tribulations? And as I started to tap people into that, like the feedback was great. But I also wanted to look at like my national impact. So I went back into where I grew up, Philly. I built over 250 properties there in about 5 years. And then I, kind of took a step back and said, well, how can I have more impact? And the first thought was, well, I can go build more properties, right? And then the second thought was, well, what if I built more developers that could go back into their communities and then build 250 properties each? If I could build 100 developers, that's so much more national impact than just me, myself doing this. So I just created that 24/7 Cash Flow University to help to build other developers, to keep them from getting burned. I got burned for over 40 grand on my first deal. So to keep people from going through all that pain and just show them the success route so that they can go, make millions, rebuild their communities and restore that community pride. And it's just kind of taken a life, of its own. And for me, when things accelerate, I try to shift my focus into them and just kind of give more energy to it.
Man, that's such a cool point. Like you can go out yourself and do 100 deals, or you could teach, 50 other individuals to go do their own 100 deals and have a much larger impact. So yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for kind of taking us through how you got to where you are in terms of, I want to go have a bigger impact. One thing that stood out to me when I was checking out your website is that one of the stated goals and missions, particularly with your masterclass students, is to try to help them retire their day jobs within 12 to 36 months. Now, this is pretty mind-blowing stuff, I think, because, I think you hear a lot of stuff out there like it's going to take you 10 years, buckle up, get ready to spend the next 10 years before you're going to be able to break off those shackles of the day job and and go into business for yourself. So when I saw that 12 to 36 months, I thought, man, that's pretty sweet. That'll get the people going. That'll get them excited. So how are you helping them accomplish?
It
gets the people going. So how are you accomplishing that in such a short time frame?
I think it's really, what we have kind of coined the 24/7 cash flow method, which is a combination. What's different about us is we don't believe that there's one way to invest in real estate. So if you think about real estate investing, there are all these different talking heads out there. There's the Airbnb guy. So if you have a spare bedroom, you should be doing Airbnb. Then you have the land deal guy. Whoever controls the dirt controls the deal. Then you have the commercial guy, and you have the creative financing guy. You have all these different people. They teach you one strategy. And when that strategy stops working, or if the market changes, which we know the market's going to fluctuate, now you're out of a strategy. You need a completely new strategy now. We kind of teach you everything. And part of the 24/7 cash flow method is to combine $50,000 profit target flip deals, either in town if you're in a good market or out of town, with buy and hold investing. So to kind of mix it up depending on where you're at. For some people, if they're starting off with more capital, they're just looking to park that capital into cash flow. If you're still trying to get a foot out of the 9 to 5, you may want to go with a flip strategy that allows you to build up a war chest of capital to then park into buy and hold deals. And for the average person, I mean, if you're knocking down $70K a year or less, and you learn how to do a $50,000 flip deal and kind of go back to that over and over again in the right type of a market, you can flip your way out of the 9 to 5, in 12 months. So it's just a matter of aggression and choosing the right strategy. And that's why, I work with my mentees one-on-one, because there is no cookie cutter way to get out of the 9 to 5 with real estate. You have to customize it to who you are as an individual. So I just focus a lot of time on that one-on-one mentorship piece. It's a lot more work than enrolling 500 people in a group course, spending no time with them and just giving them some cookie cutter approach that probably doesn't work, but it's effective. Spending time with people one-on-one, meeting them where they're at and getting them to the next level is the most effective way to help somebody make that transition.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love the idea, the concept of the one-on-one to help them get to their goals faster. And I agree with Doug. Yeah, that 1 to 3 year window is, so it really puts it where it's realistic for people. Like, man, I can get out of my shackles this 9 to 5. I see the end. there, and I'm gonna talk to Brian. He'll help me figure out what the best game plan is on, which real estate opportunities I should go to. So you'd worked for Bridgewater for a couple years, but before we get to that, I was going through YouTube clips, and I was like, we have to touch on this. So you're a basketball star back in high school, and I want to know, like, there's so many people in the world that have played basketball, but there's a few select people who have been on a basketball court with LeBron James. So,
it's a different experience.
I had to ask you. I was like, being that one person, what do you want to tell the audience about being on the court with that human?
I think being on the court, especially during this time with LeBron, to shape the time, because you have to live in the year that this was happening, right? So when we're doing this, YouTube's not built out, social media isn't built out, Instagram doesn't exist.
This is pre just barely smartphone. Is that what this is? Like
flip phone, like barely anything, right?
The real flip. The real flip.
This is still VHS. This is still block. You can still go to Blockbuster. I got a coach. He's 5'5", maybe 250 pounds, right? Like he can't jump an inch. He's ripping the ball baseline. This guy, he's gonna go baseline. He's gonna tomahawk on you. He's trying to tell us who LeBron is, and we're looking at him like, no way. I'm on a team. I'm 6'5". I'm nationally ranked. I'm top 10 in the country at this time. I've got a 6'7" shooting guard going to University of Florida. I got a 6'8" lefty power forward small forward going to Duke, and I got a 7 foot center going to Vanderbilt. They're all top 50 in the country. Had a squad. Yeah, they're all top 50 in the country. So I'm saying, what is one guy? He's a junior. There's one guy. What's he going to do to us? Like we got an NBA lineup in terms of size. Right. So they fly us out. They fly us out to Akron, Ohio on a private jet. As soon as we land, we're in the van, and they turn on the radio. They're talking about us on the radio, Brian Grimes and Lee Malchione and Ted Scooch. And they're like dropping like names of what's about to happen. So I'm like, this is weird. I've played in some environments, and Philly is a basketball city. This is the Allen Iverson era. So it's cracking in Philly, right? So it's all basketball. But I'm like, this is weird. We get to the gym on the game day. There's sold out. And then there's the LeBron James frenzy of high school where it's double sold out. It's sold out in terms of the seating. Then there's people hanging over the rafters. Then there's people all along the baseline. And it was what I would describe as a sea of people where you can't see an individual face. It's just like a dot painting, essentially. Like this is
Where's Waldo?
Yeah, it's like it's like you just can't see anything. So
how'd the game go?
The game was crazy. Like LeBron, he probably had 38, 25, and 18. Like the opening play, we had a tip where you tip the ball. It goes up to the lefty 6'8", and he just brings down the house. So we do it. We win the tip. He jumps up in the air, and I'm like, here we go. Like, let's get it. Let's show these guys what time it is.
Yeah.
LeBron, 1 foot out of nowhere, jumps up in midair, cups the ball out of his hand in midair, behind his back, throws it to his point guard, Drew. The guy's dribbling around, looking up at the stands, waving, dancing a little bit. He throws the ball from the 3-point line, our 3-point line. I follow the ball. Where's that going? LeBron catches it, other end. His chest, at this age of LeBron, he could get his chest above the rim. Like, no kidding. His chest almost above the rim.
Fresh leg or LeBron.
I mean, this is LeBron at 220 pounds. I mean, he could fly. This is the highest he could ever jump. And it was just an incredible game. We only lost by like 5 or 10. Like, it was a back and forth game. But you will not be in an environment like that or see somebody. How I would describe him as a player is at that age for high school guys, he could jump twice at a maximum height almost before you could jump once, because you're trying to load up to jump and he's just bunny hopping, but his head's at the rim. And then he lands. By the time you jump, he's landed again and he's back up. And you're like, oh my God, this guy's he was just a freak of nature.
It's different.
Yeah, he was a freak of nature. He was incredible, but it was an incredible experience. That was my first high school game.
So I love that story. That is just incredible because it's like such a rare sneak peek into that time. But then I love how Doug kind of walked us through. So you had this really cool basketball experience in your life. You did insurance, you did real estate development, and then so Bridgewater. So can you kind of talk us through what that transition, just kind of like walk us through that final transition where you were deciding, I'm going to be an entrepreneur now?
I had always decided that I was going to be an entrepreneur. It just like my path,
even through all those corporate gigs,
through all of them. When both of my parents are entrepreneurs, so I always kind of grew up in that back seat, hearing my dad on the sales calls. He was a regional sales manager for Xerox in the 80s, 90s. So he was just crushing, all of New Jersey, the whole state. And I'm in the back seat and just listening to him and developing the gift of gab through, just hearing it. Like, and he's pounding the pavement and just making it happen. So at Columbia University, I was an econ major. They typically will push you towards investment banking. I went into financial planning. I wanted to be my own boss, set my own hours, but I was 100% commission from day one, coming right out of college. Broke. Everybody I know is broke. I'm struggling just to make ends meet. I made $6,000 my first year working. So I'm like paying in gas and tolls to work. And that made me fearless. Cold calling attorneys for a living, just trying to figure it out as a kid. That made me fearless. I was always an entrepreneur. So anywhere I worked, it was not for money. It was only to learn how the business was run. So everywhere I worked was essentially some type of boutique or some type of startup after that. And I was just watching the people who are the owners. How did they interact with each other? How did they scale their company? What did they going through? And I was just there to learn so that I could apply that to building my own real estate business or any other business.
I got to ask. So you went to Columbia, you got a bunch of investment bankers in your class there with you. You guys graduate. Typically out of the gate, they're pulling,
180.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. I was going to say, how is that feeling for you when you're like paying the toll while playing, while not bringing in a bunch and you're looking around? Are you questioning like your decision at that time? Are you like, oh man, should I have gone this other road?
Absolutely. there's the fear of failure. The fear of failure is there, but surviving it makes you unbreakable now because I survived it. What I did was I refound myself because this is a whole identity crisis. I'm going from being somebody mentally who wants to play basketball for a living to now be putting on the suit and becoming, I call it like the Superman Clark Kent type of syndrome. So I'm now Clark Kent. I am now a new identity.
Jerseys off, ties on.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going into the office and I'm trying to refine what made me, who I was with basketball. Like, what is it at my core that made me successful? And what it was a positive obsession in just going after like one activity. For basketball, it's like rebounding it. I could rebound, like I was like a Dennis Rodman on half of the teams that I was on. And that got me on the court. And then I could show my other talents. So I got into cold calling. I got into I'm going to pound the phone on activity. Nobody's going to outcall me. Nobody's going to outwork me. And just staying positively obsessed. And I refound that energy.
Building up that knowledge base.
Yeah, well, I built that energy of going after it every day, regardless of if I fail or win. I need to be able to look in the mirror and say I gave it everything.
I like that.
And I just developed a different attitude that I applied to real estate. It's part of why I focus so much on mindset, even in mentorship, because having the right mindset gives you the edge against all of the other competition. It is the differential, the difference maker.
Right. I love that. The Dennis Rodman of the real estate world. Yeah. Doing the little intangibles, which is, the intangibles, the basketball. Yeah. I love that.
That is what it is.
So when you were bouncing around between the different boutique and corporate gigs you're talking about, when was it that you stepped out on your own? Can you kind of talk us through where your headset was at that point and kind of how that led to where you are now?
Yeah, so it is this Clark Kent Superman syndrome. So as you are working, you have several mindset shifts. The first mindset shift is my boss is my partner. My employer is my partner. So at first, if you're like me, you've never met somebody. I'm top 5 of people who just hate the 9 to 5. Like I'm on the top 5 list of all time, right? But when you start investing in real estate and getting cash flow on the side, you stop hating your job. It's almost confusing to you if you're like me and you dislike the 9 to 5 so much because you start to view it as your partner. They're giving me the money to build my empire. It doesn't feel as painful getting up and going in every day anymore. It actually feels fine. The edge is off because I'm not dependent on it completely. Even an extra 500 of cash flow per month will do that for you.
That passive
income.
Yeah.
It makes it easier, but it also makes you a boss because now you're a boss at night. Or during your lunch break, you are a boss. You're calling the shots. Everybody's looking at you because you're an owner. And then you have to, after lunch, put your suit back on and go in and pretend to be an employee. And it truly is pretending mentally because you're making boss level decisions. And then some other boss is telling you, you're not a boss, you're an employee. You should only listen to me and never doubt what I say. And you can't do it forever. So you struggle with this Clark Kent Superman syndrome because you truly are Superman more of the time. And as I build up more properties, it got to a point where actually I started to look at the real estate and I said to myself one day, if I don't focus full time on real estate, this thing's going to collapse. It needs my full-time attention. It had gotten that big, 10, 15 properties. So I knew I had to take the leap. And at first I was ready to blame my boss. I remember going in and essentially quitting. And as I was walking there, I was thinking, I can't stand these people. I can't stand this place. As I sat down in the chair to quit, I said, you know what? I thought it was you. It's not you, it's me. It was almost like the breakup call. It's like, it's not you, it's me. Because I mentally could not pretend to be an employee anymore. I just was ready to go. And I think that that's the best transition to have is to build your way out. Don't try to jump out of your 9 to 5 that you hate into real estate. Why? Because you're going to be what you hate. You hate your boss. What do you think you're going to become when you start becoming the real estate owner? You're just going to become your boss, the version that you hate. So you want to do a smoother transition to take the edge off of the real estate because you're putting too much pressure on it. If you're just getting started, you barely have any deals. Now you're trying to live off of the real estate. It's too much pressure. Build your way out. Understand that you're not going to hate your job as soon as you get one deal going. and you'll be able to stay in longer than you can imagine right now. And you'll win long term.
So leading up to that, leading up to that decision, it sounds like it kind of became something that you had to do when you had 10 to 15 properties. I mean, I know what that's like. It requires a lot. And, when you're trying to find the time to do that on top of a full-time job, it's tough. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day. So going back to, so you have the day where you walked into your boss, but and resigned, and you kind of had a mental shift. It sounds like on the spot, where at one point you're like, yeah, F these people, like they're holding me back, and, I don't want to be here, and I need to break free of these shackles. And then you sat down and you're like, no, this is me, and this is what I got to do for me. But now let's rewind a little bit. So leading up to that day, what were those weeks and months like for you as you're thinking about like, okay, I got all these properties. I'm so busy. Is it the right time? I gotta move on. Like, how was that for you? Did it reach a place where it was kind of an easy decision by the time you did it? Or was it still a very difficult and painful decision for you to make that leap at that time?
I wish I could sit here and say I thought about it that deeply, but I didn't, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that I didn't is because of a principle one of my favorite mentors gave me, who's also pretty big in real estate. Jump and a net will appear. So when I was 25, he gave me a book, and it's like a picture book with a bunch of principles. And it had one where it's a guy, he's on top of a mountain and he's looking down. All he can see is clouds. He's so high up. And it says there's a net down there. Jump and a net will appear. So you're not going to see it until you're falling in free fall. But you have to take the leap of faith to hit that net. And like a trapeze artist, it'll bounce you back up and propel you to even higher stratospheres. So I just looked at it and said, it's there. There's a net there, and I'm going to jump. Because I'm more of a fearless person, where I had already survived cold calling. I had survived the financial planning gauntlet with a 90% failure rating, 10% retention rating. So I just knew if I put my energy, and I'm working at a startup at this point, so I'm putting all my energy into the startup. If I put this much energy into anything, there will be a financial reward, because the money follows energy. It doesn't follow the 9 to 5. It doesn't follow punching the clock. That's just an illusion. What your boss knows that you might not know is that if you put your energy into anything, there will be a delay on the profitability, but it will come in. And I'm just fearless. Like, I'd rather fail. I had learned that during cold calling. I'd rather fail going after my dream, file a bankruptcy, and bounce right back, just like the big dogs do, just like some of your favorite millionaires and billionaires do, by the way, versus stay stuck in a 9 to 5 indefinitely out of fear. I was more afraid of the 9 to 5 than I was of failure, of bankruptcy, of any of these other things that mentally hold people back. I was more afraid of the 9 to 5. So choose your fears wisely. And
before you got those 10 to 15 properties, you were working at Bridgewater, so you had kind of it looked like a finance role. What led you into real estate to begin with?
My best friend. My best friend at the time, he's a couple years, he's still my best friend, right? He's a couple years older than me. We played basketball together in high school. He's part of that LeBron experience as well. And when he graduated, I remember we were at a college bar around Columbia University. We go in there. I'm a broke college kid, right? In New York City, which is even worse. He pulls out a knot, $2,500 cash. I'm like, what's that? I'm a broke college kid. He says, this rent day. Rent collections. And I'm like, I need some of that. You know what I mean? So now our conversations, because I'm an econ major, I'm very into finance. Our conversations are now all about real estate. It's not about the weather. It ain't about hip hop. And it's not about anything. It's about real estate all the time. We're talking every day. So we're educating each other by doing research and answering each other's questions. And he got into Section 8 and kind of that type of stuff. And we just kind of kept pushing each other. And I just knew from that point, from when I saw that stack of money, I had to have that experience. And he pushed me. Even the first house I bought, he came and helped me to paint the walls, sweep the floors, and hand over the keys, to the first tenant. So, and that's what, if you don't have a best friend like that, get new friends, keep it moving, because that guy really showed up for me and showed me the way. And, eventually I just kind of kept accelerating and scaling, I'm really good. If I'm good at anything, it's building systems that don't break at scale. That's like my passion, is building systems that you can multiply by 1,000 and they still won't break. That will, when you apply that to real estate, will 10x you. It will just 10x you.
Yeah, the systems are critical.
So you jump out the window and say, boss, thank you. I got to go do my thing. I got these proper 10 to 15 that need my attention. And you jump out, and now it's just you and those properties. Now you got to go make it happen. And now there's no more safety and security of that corporate job. What were the early days like? How did that go for you in the first, 3, 6, 12 months?
Yeah, that's a scary step for so many people. Like, I'm quitting my job. I'm now doing this side hustle.
Yeah. I wish I could say I was more afraid, but I started off cold calling for 100% commissions for a living. So
right. It
kind of felt like more of the same. It's like, all right, now I'm back in my environment, and I can choose to apply my energy to what I want to do. There's definitely fear. Like I said, my first big development project, I got burned for 40 grand by a GC. And that was just like, wake up call. You got to figure this out. You got to become the GC. There are lots of what I would call needle thread moments where you're pretty much flat out of money, and then some lender runs in and is like, hey, I like these deals. I like that you're building a community. I'm going to fund these deals. And you just have these needle thread moments and these situations where the universe is supporting your mission. And if you're conscious enough to see that, then you start to lose fear, and you start to understand, which is something I understood about real estate, is my real value is to the universe. It is to rebuilding communities. It is to building other developers. It is, I'm part of that ecosystem, and the universe won't let you fail when you become part of a positive ecosystem. And that's why I stay tapped in and tuned into the mindset, and just staying positive, even with some of these pitfalls. I mean, some of the worst things that happen to me in real estate are some of the best advice that I can give to my mentees, right? $1 million loss obtains a value when I can pass that back to a mentee. So everything has kind of found its purpose. Even if I don't understand it when I'm in the thick of it, the value is there. So then you just learn to trust the game, go with the flow.
I love that. One of the there's a few really critical lessons that you just went through. I just want to make sure the audience appropriately, is able to hear all of it. You were grinding, and you kept referencing, I was watching the owners, I was taking notes. So it sounds like you really had this thought process of, I'm going to take these other jobs to build up my skill set, to build up my knowledge base. All right, now next job, new skill set, new knowledge. And you really kind of built that up. And then you started this side hustle while you were still working some of those corporate jobs. It sounds like you had a startup and insurance, like a bunch of different things. I really like the idea. This is kind of something that I think a lot of our that my mentees ask me is like, well, what's the best game plan? If you're looking for the safest game plan, is like what you're doing. Make the most of every job opportunity, learn as much as you can, do your best, and show them that you're, be a great worker. So you get opportunities and more learning lessons. And then when you're ready to start your side hustle, just start dabbling on the side. It sounds like you kind of dabbled on the side, like, oh, this kind of works. And then you had a few setbacks. But I think it's really critical that everyone really understands, it's a rocky road, but you're kind of mitigating your risk by getting the skill set front loaded on someone else's buck.
Exactly.
And then kind of stepping out on your own.
It's an apprenticeship. I think we live in a world today. We were talking, earlier about social media and all these different things that exist now that didn't. If you go back 100 years, if you wanted to be a shoemaker, you did an apprenticeship under a shoemaker. That's how you learn. There wasn't at a cubicle in a big office you went to and you got told what to do. You literally stood there and you asked questions and you learned. And there was that kind of mentality on my end of, I'm here to serve an apprenticeship. I'm not here to work this 9 to 5 for 10, 15 years. I'm not getting a golden watch at the end of this thing and a pension. It ain't happening. So you're here to learn. And when you guys that are listening, when you wake up and realize you're only in this job to learn how to get out, all the skill sets to get out are being given to you because the people are running the business right in front of you. Which is why if you have an opportunity to work at a startup, I worked at a startup that went from, I was employee number 23 to over 500 employees. So I got to interface with the engineering team and the marketing team and the product manager and the writers and all of these things. The writer, they learned that I was so good on camera that they pulled me in to work with the marketing team. And I was part of their first YouTube channel rollout where I was teaching people about how life insurance policies work in front of a whiteboard. So you get these opportunities. I got to test my skills before I even went out to do it, for myself. So just viewing your job differently. This is a mindset hack. Stop viewing your job as something you hate and start to look at it as a partner that can fund your dream lifestyle, that can give you the capital to get started, and you will be more successful just naturally on that vibration of energy. So
much of what you're saying, Brian, that reminds me of, my last 10 to 15 years of my career. And I remember, being employee number 40 of a company that went to 300-400 employees a year later. And you're kind of on this rocket ship, and it's pretty exciting to watch a company go from basically like kind of a small startup. It was a real estate company into something much bigger. And one of the things I remember thinking as we reached that larger size of 400 or 500 employees was, I really didn't feel like I had access to the people that were running the business. I sat in a cubicle next to my manager and the other asset managers that were in my role. So I kind of got to see what the portfolio manager, who was my manager, see what he does a little bit, but I didn't feel like I could open the kimono and kind of see what's really happening behind the scenes of, the guys that are operating and running this company. And I remember thinking to myself, I need to go work because I wanted to be an entrepreneur eventually, but I thought there may be for me an intermediary step where let me go and find a smaller company where I do have more access to the people that are running it. And maybe that way I can fast track my path to entrepreneurship. Fortunately for me, I was able to connect with the guy who's now been my partner for almost a decade. And he said, hey, instead of coming to work for me, let's partner 50-50, start up our own venture. And here we are, like I said, 10 years later. So it worked out really well for me. But going back to you, how do you think about that? So you're working at a big company. How does one get access to the people that are really running the business? Or do you recommend that people that want to become entrepreneurs, that they leave that big company, to try to find a smaller company? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, work in a smaller company where you can kind of interface with the owners. It depends on what level you're at, how old you are, and when you're doing this. But if you're younger, your job should be to focus on, even if you're taking a haircut on pay. Like I took the ultimate haircut on pay, right? Guys are making $180,000 and I'm paying the work, living at home in the bedroom I grew up in. But I was learning more than them. And I wasn't working 20-hour days. I had time to think, to dream. So, you just have to put yourself in the environments. You have to view it as just some type of a boot camp, essentially. Like you just can't view these things too long term, because that's not how the world works today. People aren't working places for longer than 2 years. Really anymore, not consistently. So you have to view these growth opportunities correctly. Like you want to be somewhere where you can grow, where you can not only interface with the owners, but can you go talk to the engineering team? I remember talking to the guy who was running the marketing campaigns. He was spending $250,000 to $500,000 a month on marketing campaigns when I knew nothing about that. And I'm going out, hey, let's go out to lunch. So a lot of it is not necessarily being placed in the position, but it's you getting outside of your comfort zone and going and talking to the people that are doing different things. Go grab lunch with them. Go build relationships with them, because they're not going to be here forever either. And they'll give you all the information on what they do for a living. And as you learn more, now you're going to be able to say, oh, so when I start my company, I get a guy like this, and he knows how to spend the money on marketing to make more profitability. Then I get an engineer and they can program the applications. Then I get a sales guy. He can build out a call center. And now you're seeing how pieces and components and software is used to actually create a world-class startup, a world-class business. So you just need to learn the systems and the people that get placed into those systems. And then you can become a super owner. But it's really just being exposed to that, but being open to it, because it's all in front of your eyes. Nobody's even bothering to hide it. They just figure most people aren't going to figure it out anyway. So why do they need to hide it? They don't even try.
Yeah, I think that what Doug just did there is I know that a lot of my mentees, when they hear different guests on the podcast, they're like, oh, well, that person, like, well, Brian was talking about how he's working at these jobs and he had access to these managers. And Doug's like, well, I didn't really have access. This is the same type of thing I think a lot of listeners do. They're like, oh, well, that was easier for them, but I'm in a harder situation. So I like how you kind of poked a hole in that problem and just saying, look, if it's harder for you to get in front of the leaders of your organization, then you just have to put more effort into getting the, take them to lunch, take them to coffee, or go look around where there's other people.
Well, the funny part is the leaders don't know anything anyway. If you're a good leader, and that's the truth, if you're a good leader, what do? You go out and find better talent than you, people who know more than you about their individual discipline. Right. So you should actually be talking with the other people anyway. Because the owner, you're going to be disappointed when you find out how little they know and how talentless they actually are. So there is a component of that as well. Every good boss knows, I'm only as good as my talent, and they go out and try to find people who are smarter and more capable than them. The bad micromanaging bosses always want to find people who are worse than them, and then they collapse. Their companies don't do well.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it sounds like one of your main reasons for success is this mindset and how you really kind of instill in your mentees and your team kind of the critical lessons from an early aspiring entrepreneur. Can you go through a couple more that you think like this is like the foundation for aspiring entrepreneurs' success?
Yeah. The foundation is a very simple saying my father's mentor gave to him. He was one of the 1968 gold medalists for the Olympics, like 400 meter, one of the guys who put up the fist.
Wow.
His mantra was the main things to keep the main thing the main thing. The main things to keep the main thing the main thing. And it's so difficult. It's much easier to keep the main thing back then, without social media, without all these distractions. The problem with most entrepreneurs is you get into one thing, then there's another shiny thing over here. Then there's another ad. Then there's another get rich quick. Then there's crypto. Then there's all these different things. It's hard to stay tunnel vision and locked in. People ask me, Brian, why don't you do commercial deals? Because I'm doing what I'm doing. It's working, and I'm focused on keeping my main thing the main thing. Everybody else can go do their thing. And as an entrepreneur, that is the most difficult challenge, is to stay tunnel visioned long enough to have extreme success. If you attack one point, it's like punching through if you're like a karate guy, to punch through that brick, you have to focus all of your power on one point,
right?
For a focused amount of time to break through that brick. So it is like that as an entrepreneur. You're trying to run through a brick wall. You're trying to do things that people haven't done or most people can't do. You're not going to get it done distracted. You're not going to get it done trying to do 5 things at once. Most millionaires made their first million in one business, and then they took the profits and started to branch it out and create multiple streams off of the one.
And then they lost it in other businesses, and then made it again.
Yeah. Make it in one and then lose it in the others.
Yeah.
But if they make it back, it's from the focus that they learned. It's from focusing their energy on one thing and then applying that for a duration of time until they get the desired result. The other thing is the game ain't over until I win. So just because you didn't win fast enough or faster than the competition or your buddy across the street, it doesn't matter. The game ain't over yet. It's not over until I win. You have to have that mindset as well. You don't know when it's going to happen. You got to keep going.
Yeah. One of the things I really want to lean into that you had just said was the fact that the main thing needs to stay the main thing. And I know that some of our audience may hear that and say like, all right, well, I'm working a side job. I'm trying to tinker a little bit with some side hustles. Like, how do I make the main thing the main thing? And I really want to like bring it home for the audience that by main thing, it means you're really working on what you think is the best low hanging fruit right then. And you're going to give it your best. But it sounds like in your past also, when you learned the main thing might not be the right path, you had multiple pivots also. So can you talk us through that balancing act of the main thing is the main thing, but also you have to have, sometimes the main thing is a little to your right.
Yeah, well, that becomes in the not overthinking things, like just sometimes taking the leap of faith, not trying to map out how things will unfold perfectly, because the human mind is a linear thinking mind. It's wired to think in a straight line. real life is unlimited and exponential. Growth can be exponential. So you may be doing something right now that feels like a waste of time, or you go on one business venture and it flops. It just completely fails. Like I've done like network marketing before, completely fails. But the skills that I picked up from it get applied over here. And then you're like, wow, I learned how to do that there. Now I'm applying that to real estate. So everything that you're doing, if you're doing it consciously, you can pick up a talent. I think how I can bring it home is this. My mentor taught me something very early on before I even started work. He said, Brian, you know, there's two types of equity, right? There's a non-portable and portable equity. Do you know the difference? No, I don't. He said, okay, so let's say you're working at a job and you make a lot of relationships and you have a bunch of friends and the bosses love you. That's just equity within the company. You can't take that with you when you go to the next job. He said, you know what's portable equity? You know those degrees they pay for? Like if you study and get this degree, they'll pay for it. Well, that degree is portable. So when you go to the next job, that's portable equity. So I only want you focused on portable equity when you work anywhere, when you do anything. So my mind is always wired for portable equity. Even if I'm doing something and I'm not getting a degree, what am I learning now that is portable, that I can take with me for life as a skill set? Cold calling was portable. Sales is portable. You can sell anything.
Yeah, your network.
So it's really, your network. So it's all about focusing on portable equity over the course of time. Things that you can take with you, skill sets you can take with you that you can apply to other things. And with real estate, it's so versatile. There's 101 ways to make money in real estate. It's one of those businesses where more skill sets and talents from other things can be applied to real estate to make money than almost any other business, which is why it has the highest success rate, makes the most millionaires in the world. I mean, it just is what it is.
In this conversation, Brian, you've referenced some of the mentors that have helped you to become the man that sits in front of us right now, and how they've helped shape your mindset and help you put yourself in a position to become successful. And now you offer mentorship to so many out there through your 24/7 Cashflow University. The importance of mentors, I think, can't be overstated. Most of the people, the successful entrepreneurs we've had on this show have talked to us about the importance of mentors. I think one of the things that's important to kind of hear from you is for folks that are coming up, just getting started, that don't have the best friend who flashes that $2,500 and says, hey, let's go start investing in real estate. Where do you recommend people go to seek out mentors, and where do you think are good watering holes and places to find those important, crucial mentors?
I mean, I think podcasts can be really good for finding mentors because you're getting to kind of engage with people through the podcast hosts. They're asking questions that you might be thinking about, and you're getting to interface with somebody if they happen to also have a mentorship program. I think that's the best way. I think it's really to be the fly on the wall, kind of look at their work, see who resonates with you. If you're like into this, and I'm not knocking anybody who's into things for fast cash and trying to get rich quick. I'm not knocking that. But if that's what you're looking for, go find a mentor who's also on that wavelength. If you're a slow and steady type of person, you're more conservative, go find somebody who's putting out that type of vibe, who is a bit more conservative, who's a bit more laid back, and who is just focused on execution and long-term growth. But I think it's more research based. Do your research, find the right fit, do your research again, and then take a leap of faith, because mentorship, especially paid mentorship, there's two types of mentorship. One is free, one is paid. Paid mentorship can be better than free mentorship because there's more incentive to actually help you. Whereas like the free mentor, they get busy, they're not going to return a call. A cup of coffee, they can't give you all their game in a cup of coffee. It just doesn't work. With a paid mentor, you can get a lot more access, but you just want to make sure you're doing the right things and doing your research before you get in front of that person. So I think it's just about doing as much research as possible, going to the places that have the best podcasts, and you'll find the right fit long term.
Yeah, and putting yourself out there. I like how you're
bet on yourself.
I like that a lot. One of the questions we ask every guest is, how would you personally define entrepreneurship? My personal definition of entrepreneurship is being fiercely independent to the point of where you would rather fail
than be dependent on someone else financially in its entirety. So it is rooted in a fierce sense of independence in almost all aspects of life, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So it's free thinking. Entrepreneurs, by definition, are free thinking people. They don't believe in the status quo. They don't believe that the only way to do things is how they've been done. They don't believe in the confines that are given to them. They are free thinking. They are dreamers, and they are trying to create their own path and do it their way. They might adopt a blueprint, but they're going to try to add their sauce to it and do it their way. It is independence in reliance on government, on a boss, and it is a independence of thought. I want to think my way freely. I don't care what the economist from 50 years ago said about how things work. This is how they work today. I can see it clearly. I'm right. They're wrong. And I'm going to get this done come hell or high water. And that's an entrepreneur. That's an entrepreneur, man. That's the mindset of a successful entrepreneur, at least.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Brian, thanks so much for sharing your story, brother. We all have these different paths to finding our freedom. And I think that our listeners are really going to enjoy listening to yours.
No, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. People are going to want to reach out to you. Where should we send them?
Send them to, Instagram, Brian Grimes _247 CFU for the 24/7 Cash Flow University. I'm on LinkedIn, Brian Grimes Real Estate. On YouTube, Brian Loves Cash Flow. That's easy to remember because I love cash flow. So Brian Loves Cash Flow on YouTube. That's all backlink to a free real estate training that I put together for you guys on www.workwithgrimes.com/cash flow. Workwithgrimes.com/cash flow. It's a free real estate training that'll show you how to acquire properties for pennies on a dollar all across the country. You don't want to miss out on that free offer.
Oh, dude, I love that. Yeah, we'll put all those in the show notes so everyone can check out your stuff, dude. This was such an entertaining episode, dude. Thanks so much for taking us through all those stories.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
Being an entrepreneur is hard. That's why we created findyourfreedompod.com for all the resources you need to find your own freedom.